Hey everyone, it's Marshall Atkinson, and today I have a guest. His name is Jeremy Picker with Amb3r Creative, and we're going to talk about being creative and the relevancy of that, especially with sales. So, hey Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Marshall. Thanks for having me. Pretty excited to be a guest on your show. So thanks for the invite.
Yeah, it's very informal. We're just going to have a conversation, but I wanted to let anybody that's watching know that they can ask questions. So just put a question in the comment, and then when we find a pause, we can answer it. So just make sure that you know that you can do that. And if you don't have a question, just leave a comment that you're watching, maybe where you're watching from, what city, that kind of stuff. We want to know who you are. So, it's really good to have that kind of stuff. So before we get started here, why don't you just tell everybody about what you do, your company, who your customers are, that type of stuff.
Yeah, so I've been around the custom apparel world since the early 90s. My brother ran a clothing company in Southern California. So from junior high to college, I was going to screen printers, embroiderers, cut and sew factories in LA, and wasn't planning on being in the apparel world, but I love my older brother and wanted to be like him. And so I got into it, and then I got stuck. I loved it. And then I toured with bands for 10 years, selling merchandise on the road, managing their money. And then in 2008, me and a buddy who designed and produced the band for the bands I worked with said, hey, I have a business idea. Let's high volume retail kind of approach to merchandise and bring it to just normal businesses. Give them, the decoration processes from specialty inks, applique, cut and sew, and bring it to everyday Joes. So I quit my job, and we've been in business since 2008.
Well, that's great. That's great. And so your customers are primarily, you were telling earlier, churches and groups and organizations and businesses, right?
Yeah. So we started in the band merch world, and then there's so many egos involved in that industry. We were like, it's too much hassle. So my ex-business partner's father was a minister for a mega church. And so we started with churches, and then nonprofits, and then eventually food and beverage, a lot of restaurants, bars, breweries here in Colorado. And that's kind of our second biggest client base, and then clothing brands and tech companies and everything in between.
Right. So before we get to some topics of discussion, I wanted to give a shout out to some Kisa, who's watching from Texas, and Keith's watching from Yuba City, which is up Northern California. So, hey, thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys. We've got some prepared questions excuse me, to get going here. And the first one is, so Jeremy, how does creativity translate into more sales? And that's, of course, sales is what drives the business, right?
Yeah.
And so you can put anything you want on a shirt, right? So, but how do you guys do it? What's your secret sauce?
Yeah, so I think, when I first started, we tried to go wide. Just, I wanted to help everyone produce their t-shirts, any order I could get, I'll make it. And, with maturity and failing and learning along the way, fast forward 12 years, learned to just kind of find a couple niches to put a lot of our resources in on the marketing, on the cold calls, the sales activities. And so, really finding how can you position yourself in this oversaturated market. The barrier to entry is really low. So the competition, you type in some t-shirts, and most likely, unless you're the big guys or you have one of the best SEO companies, it's going to be hard. So how can you start at the niches, and get those kind of long tail keywords, and really what differentiates you from everyone else. I think a lot of people categorize all custom t-shirt apparel companies in the same bucket. And I think a lot of that is because us as, different companies aren't promoting that as well. So I think, on the sales side, the more you can focus on that industry, the more you can know that end customer, because not everyone just needs that left check print or a all over print. You really need to know that audience and dive into who their client is. What I like to say to my customers is, your client, age, sex, socioeconomic status, all that information. Me and my team, we know the marketplace. We're studying the trends. We know, the buying patterns, things that are different in the Southeast versus the Northwest. And so how can we really dive in before we even mock up a shirt, before we show them some merchandise? We want to really get to know who they are. And so for us, that's how we've kind of led to bigger sales. We're not trying to be the automated thing. We're small and boutiquey, that word, but we are trying to help our customers, build a merch line in retail. We want to bring that retail ready, fashion forward approach to come here.
Right. Okay. So I thought it might be fun to share what you put together for your clients. And so we can talk about creativity, but there's another thing to demonstrate creativity. And so for those of you watching, right, this is absolutely going to blow your mind. So talk about, I'm going to flip the thing here in a minute, but so Jeremy, talk about what we're going to see, what it is, how much time and effort you put into it, and then who you created this for.
Yeah, so every, we'll just apparel project, there's the same stages, design, development, production, and then shipping. But those are the three core things, whether they're designing or whether you're designing in-house. Design, development, production, you have to go through those steps: design, then finding the product, decoration processes, any finishing, and then sourcing it. And so the way we start even that design process is through ideation, through mood boards, through trend report, because nothing at the end of the day is original. We're all taking influences from everywhere, from the major retail brands to small independent shops. And so we use trend research to kind of be a foundation to create a line for our customers. So instead of us trying to say, hey, what's your style? The most people that aren't describe what they want. I want something edgy but preppy, and it doesn't necessarily make sense. So everyone can show us, and this is kind of the foundation. Come up with a year-long trend report, and then we kind of come up with seasonal and item-specific trend reports. So a recent one from our visit to the mall, I saw a lot of screen print on denim jackets, denim pants. And so I just did a little mini trend snapshot of that trend report. This one that you're showing, I would probably say 60 to 80 hours went into it. We did it over 3 months. One of my project managers, Emily, she was in charge of kind of curating everything. She has a fashion background. Then my designer, Angelo, put it all together. And, it was a collective effort. But really, we want to see what is our client's client retail, whether it's online, brick and mortar. There's going to be influences around the whole industry, from colors from Target all the way to Saks Fifth Avenue. And so we really want to break it down and make it easier for our customers to communicate visually on what they like and where they see their brand fitting in. So this one has a lot more streetwear influence, because I'm sure everyone out there knows they get a lot of requests on the streetwear side, but we kind of go through and, talk about the different blanks, from market to what we can offer, through all of our supplier network. You know, there's Alternative Apparel, AS Color, Bella Canvas, all the different brands that we all have availability to, in showing and picking those items and those products that would fit in with these different trends. So you can kind of see here where, you know, we're finding neutrals and we're finding, you know, edgy streetwear, and we try to take the retail world, these brands that are, you know, have a big following, and then integrate that into what we can offer people. So this is, I think it's 30 pages, and it just goes down and, you know, breaks different styles, different looks that we're going to see in the next, you know, 6 to 12 months, from the runway to ready to wear. And, you know, a lot of these things, any printer, any embroiderer, anyone in our industry can create something that falls in line with those vibes. And so, you know, the chenille patches on the varsity jackets, you know, glow in the dark. I know there's a lot of reflective that was, you know, happening towards the beginning of the year, but really, how can we not just give it to a customer, because they're most likely either going to pick the 1 or 2 brands they know, or they're going to go cheap as possible because they don't know the difference. And so I always encourage everyone in our industry, you know, be the experts that these people are coming to you for the screen printing, for the embroidery. Don't just, hey, we'll take your art and print it. Let's help them make a better product, because the more they sell, the more their audience wears the shirt, the more they're going to come back to you for reorders and, you know, want to grow with your company. So again, taking from things that are coming on the runway to what is available from any supplier network. And, you know, it covers different bases, to the edgy hip hop to athleisure, which is bigger by the day. We like to point out, you know, the design styles as well, different type treatments, illustrations that can be utilized on merchandise. And so this is actually available to anyone. I can post a link and they can load it, just, you know, to bring inspiration for their clients. Not all clients are going to like what you see, but again, it gets you thoughts. Don't always just rely on our supplier network. You know, they're doing the best they can to arm us with the right info, but, you know, do it on your own, and you know your audience. So whether it's you, the owner, or people on your team, I'm sure someone, you know, in the back that, you know, is right out of high school, knows social media. You could give them a task and they love to go on Instagram and, you know, find different styles that they like. So, you know, we build off of this, and then it's just kind of throughout the year, we'll add on different spotlights of trends. And again, for us, we want that retail ready approach. So you have to know what goes into, you know, those brands that are at the mall, that are online, that are selling well, in order to create something that is that quality. Just a logo on a shirt isn't going to cut it.
Right. So I think this is really well crafted and really nice, and it really gives any customer a sense of, yeah, hey, I see that stuff all the time at the mall. I can get that for me. Yes, you can. And you're using apparel that you can get for their distributor, and you're just spinning it into a way that people can relate to. And I think that's a really important thing to remember, is that we are the experts in the industry. We are the guides. You know, if you read Story Brand by Donald Miller, you know, your customer is your hero. We're the guide. We have a plan, which is what this is. We're going to give our customer the plan so they can be the hero. And I think this really is an effective tool. Absolutely.
And Eric, me and him have, you know, been enjoying each other on social media and talking about, you know, we are the consultants. Don't be the commodity. There's plenty of people out there that are willing to do it cheaper, willing to do it faster. And in order to separate yourselves, you have to take that little extra time to be that consultant and showing them this is what's popular, versus just letting them decide. I'm an expert in my own right. I look at a catalog from Sanmar and I don't even know why I should pick this polo over that polo.
Right.
So, you know, being able to curate that list to make it digestible for clients, I think is super important. Again, otherwise they get overwhelmed and they just default to what they think is right, even though that might not be the right item for their.
Yeah, you know, when I had a coaching call the other day with somebody, and we were talking about their sales process. And one of the things I asked them is, you know, when you're on the phone with a client, what's the first thing that you do? And they said, ask them for the quantity because I need to know how to get into my quote. And I'm like, no. You ask, how are you using the shirt? What is the purpose? What are you doing with that, right? And so that because if you know what they're doing with the shirt, you have a better sense of their value. You know what they're doing with it. Are they trying to make an impression with the customer? Right? So we want this person to be their favorite shirt. It's the first one they wear when it comes out of the dryer, right?
Yeah.
That's a different blank than something that you're just going to wear when you change the oil in your car.
Absolutely.
Right.
I had an article, I think, in Printwear lately, and it talks about just a handful of questions to ask to set the project up for success. And, you know, it's, are you selling these or giving these away? You know, are they for tweens or adults? Like, all of those different questions matter. You know, is it a nonprofit or is it a tech company in San Francisco? And learning more about that audience allows you to not only show them things that are in their budget, but give them ideas that they just know a t-shirt or a print on a shirt. They don't know the hat, the water bottle, the bag that kind of makes that whole successful.
Right. Here's our next question is, what is your favorite tip to generate new ideas? So where do you go for inspiration?
So pre-COVID, just life in general, just walking around, going to the zoo, taking my kids places. It's important to compartmentalize your surroundings. You know, there's inspiration everywhere. You know, when I'm going to the zoo and I see an animal that, you know, I see their fur, the color of the signage, you know, I will take that in. And, you know, if I'm going to the mall, I'm not looking at everything equally. I want to find a piece from Hollister. I want to find a piece from Lucky Jeans. And how does this fit in design style? What are the garments? What's the fabric colors? And then what decoration processes? So, you know, the ideas, it's constant. It's always going. And the better you can take that from your brain or your camera into organization, you know, the easier it's going to be ideas for later. So a lot of times I'm breaking everything, the whole world, into like 6 to 10 genres: action sports, streetwear, prep collegiate, artistic abstract, vintage retro. And everything I'm looking at, whether it's a texture, a color, or design style, a typeface, I'm always putting categories, and then using my folder system to kind of keep that organized. Pinterest, number one place to go because it's so easy. Like, I think people underestimate the value of Pinterest.
So Jeremy, how many secret idea boards do you have? Because I've got a bunch.
Yes, I have at least 50 that have the little lock on it. That is, you know, either shared with some clients or it's shared with my internal team. And so again, all these ideas that you see and get, I see them as butterflies. And in Evernote, I use, we talked about that earlier, Evernote, Dropbox, Pinterest, like my butterfly catcher. I take those, I capture those ideas because otherwise it'll be gone. But the more you create after those inspiration ideas, when you get a client and this is the audience that they tell you, this is the location, you can kind of know, all right, are they going to be streetwear? You know, and you ask them these questions. If they're going to be prep collegiate, I know exactly where to go. I know, you know, the embroidery, the applique, the weathered screen print on a polo. Like, I'm constantly curating all those ideas So in the future, I can use them. A lot of it is up in my head just because that's what I love to do. Like my hobby is Pinterest. So it's not work for me. I'm constantly doing that just in life. So it comes a little natural to me, but if it doesn't, if you're not necessarily super creative, visual's the way to go, and the best place to start. And then going from the generating new ideas, how that into reality is, I think, a difficult thing for many people.
So Keith says, when we travel, I always check out the gift shops and apparel with the mall with my daughter to see trends. Always trying something, ton of pics on my phone that relate to nothing personal, all work. I'm the same way, Keith. But here's the thing is you can take those pics and you can put them somewhere. So you can put them in I have a Google Drive and I have albums and I stick stuff into albums for different things. I am a texture freak, okay? Because I'm a Photoshop guy. I like Photoshop.
Yeah.
And so I love, look at the bark on that tree, or look at the pebble on the concrete. I'm taking a picture of it. And of course, my son's always like, Dad, will you stop? But I'm always geeking out over this stuff because you'll never run into that cracked window again, or how the soap looked in the car wash on the windshield, right?
I love it. Yeah.
You can use that stuff, right?
100%.
And it so makes your image look better because you don't, and I'll never, don't buy textures. They're right there. They're everywhere. They're surrounding you. Use what you have, man. And so anyway, so I'm a big proponent of that. And awesome. Then you can also use tools like Evernote. I was at a conference, a ClickFunnels conference earlier this year, and the young woman sitting next to me, I felt so damn old. I'm like, oh, what are you doing? She had her iPad out, and Evernote was open. And as the speakers were talking, she was using the iPad, and she was taking pictures of the slides with it. And it was going right into Evernote seamlessly with her little comments underneath it. I'm like,
yep.
People are smarter. People are smarter. It's like, oh man, I feel so dumb. I'm handwriting stuff in a book. So.
Well, but at the end of the day, whatever works for you, that's right. The big thing. Because I want, my whole team to be, always using, technology. People like writing on paper. When I'm reading things, I have to print it out. I'm staring at the computer all day that I need to print it out so I can like highlight it and not look at the computer. But I think finding what works for you is so important. Good Notes is another app that I really like because you can actually write and scribble right over the images, whereas Evernote, you have your picture and then you have to write below it. Good Notes is really nice.
I haven't heard of that. That's cool. So our next question here, topic is creativity equals problem solving. So way back when my hair was actually dark and not as messy it is now, like a long time ago, I was an art director. And one of the things that I did all the time was have to come up with the greatest design ever known to man about a dozen times a day, right? And so it was quite the challenge. And so one of the things that I did was I like to use the constraints or rules to help me be creative. Because if you just said, hey, do something cool and interesting, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
So what I did was I would make index cards I had a stack of hundreds of them with one word on them, like clear or orange or rough or smooth or sporty or asymmetrical or square or whatever. And I would just have one word on these. And what I would do is I would pick 2 or 3 of these words out. And that gave me the starting point for the design. And that was inspirational for me because then the client wanted whatever they wanted. Now I had something to play with in my brain. And that allowed me to come up with a really great design. And people would go, wow, where'd you get that idea? Well, I wouldn't tell them I got them from my little note card system. But that really worked a lot. And it helped make things interesting. So how do you problem solve with your creativity? What is your secret there?
Like, empathy is important, you know, really caring what your customer and their customer wants and cares about. I think that can set up the whole project. If you're again, going back to asking the right questions, it's so important to do that digging before the project even starts. That way, everything else is going to be smoother, and the disconnect is going to be minimized. You know, there's always going to be difficult clients and they might not like your approach, but being able to say, you know, what I think's cool, what you think is cool is Marshall, what, you know, our audience thinks is cool is going to be completely different. So that's where you get the visuals mixed with, you know, asking the questions. You know, for me, every business is unique. You know, their problems are similar at a high level. You know, what is your goal? You want, you know, to get awareness for your brand? Do you want to make a lot of money? You know, do you want to just have a connection with your customers? Like, there's these core questions that doesn't matter what genre you're in. Those are the similar things of why are you creating a t-shirt? And I always go back to, you create a t-shirt so people wear it. And it sounds stupid, but a lot of people, I don't think about that, is if you are just letting the customer always dictate the ideas and the design, or just slap your logo, and no one wears that shirt, it's a waste of their money, it's a waste of your time, it's a waste of a lot of resources. You know, we talk about all the time, the thrift store is the cemetery for bad shirts. And a lot of that means,
I just inspired there. How many people go to the thrift store to see what people don't like, to avoid that, right? That's genius.
And I mean, you know, I don't know if Gildan is sponsoring this, but I see a lot of, you know, bad thick prints. And, you know, my biggest pet peeve is on the nonprofit side, where, you know, everyone puts a logo on the back of a t-shirt, and I'm like, why has the t-shirt become that? You know, again, a t-shirt is meant to be worn. It is a billboard, but how many companies actually have hard data that says, oh, my logo is on this shirt, here's my ROI? Like, no one has probably ever been said, oh, I saw that, you know, you sponsored this 5K, I want to work with you. I don't think it's ever happened. Maybe it has, but you go to the thrift store and that's what you see, you know, cheap shirt,
sure,
logo, sponsors on the back. And it's like, for nonprofits, keep your money. I tell them, you know, yes, I want your order, but keep your money if you're not going to do it right, because that shirt is going to end up at Goodwill and they're going to make money off of your bad execution.
Right. Hey,
so
Artem, we got a question. Artem is the Shirt Lab Portland Rock, Paper, Scissors champion, by the way. And he says, hello, gents. What garment decoration trends do you see for this summer?
So, yeah, there's a lot that I saw that was going to be popular if they ever open up again. I was just going to pull up one of my recent trips. So Champion was everywhere. It was literally in every, you know, Journeys, Urban Outfitters, Finish Line. They have done an amazing job catching fire with that streetwear trend, and they had different looks for all these different retail stores. So we saw a ton of heat transferred applique, and some of it was like there was actually screen print on the applique, but you look on the inside, there was no stitches. So, you know, they're definitely making it pretty cheap on some aspects, but the diversity that whoever's designing at Champion, they're spot on with knowing the Urban Outfitters audience and the Journeys audience. That was one big thing we saw. We saw a lot of puff ink. Their True Religion, they had a lot of puff, and so did Lucky. They had some puff in there. So those are some processes that I saw. Tons of embroidery on crew neck sweatshirts, on on sleeves, you know, and not just your basic flat embroidery. We saw a lot of chain stitches, whip stitches. Go follow Eric Campbell for the embroidery guru. He teaches, if you're an embroiderer, he teaches you know, how to achieve some of these retail looks. And then I saw a lot of direct chenille embroidery. I know most of that can't be done in the States. But again, textures, creating depth, whether it's through patches, applique, puff, HD. I saw a lot of textured prints.
So
what have you been seeing, Marshall?
Well, wouldn't you argue that if you really want to stand out, you have to differentiate? You have to be different.
Yeah.
Like if everybody's doing this, there's your argument not to do that. And I think that's really kind of an interesting kind of point. And well, personally, I haven't seen anything because I've been in my house for 2 months. So I don't know what's going on out there, to be honest. I see a lot of retail stores going bankrupt. You know, you mentioned True Religion. I think they filed for bankruptcy last week. But
I mean, it makes sense because there was no one ever in their store when we went. But
but what do I like? I like clean. I like really nice prints. I like stuff with texture in it. What I don't like is if I see a T-shirt where the design is in a square, I think that designer is probably the most lazy person ever. You know,
agreed.
I don't like that. I like funky things, and I like things where they take a risk. That's what I like. So,
agreed. A lot of tie dye
here, just to get through some. So Eric says resort wear and gift items are great because they can't be subject to draws. It often is the technique and materials. So look at the airport. Look at that hotel you're staying at, you know, that kind of stuff, just to see some cool stuff. And then take a picture of it with your phone. Just like Keith mentioned earlier, I take pictures of stuff all the time. And another thing is I like to write things down. I use field notes, those little books. I've got it all over my office just to jot things down in when I'm walking around. And then Sharon says, I'm sure a lot has changed post-COVID. Who knows when the malls or gift shops will open? That's true. Cindy's like, I do T-shirts for a swim school this year. They're not sure when they can open or how many students they will have. So they're going to do a towel with a screen print on it. No worries on sizes this year. So one of the things that's interesting about customers not opening back up, you know, if you just watch what's going on, you know, they're already talking about universities not having classes, you know, and I know a lot of apparel companies do stuff for schools, right? So what happens is in the fall that there's no school, there's no classes, everything is online. You know, all that merch that we did for that college, are we still doing that? Online stores, how are you going to be different? You know, we should be thinking about our designs and our problem solving with creativity now to come up with these new ideas and new trends before that happens, right?
Yep. And I think it goes back to not only on your suppliers. You know, some suppliers are better than others with educating you, but you need to do it yourself because, you know, either they know what's trending or they know why they're selling this blank, but it's up to you to connect that with your audience. And I think, you know, one thing I'm seeing, I've always been the apparel guy, but 3 years ago I got into promotional products and, you know, accessories just because all my customers were producing it. They just weren't doing it with me. And so I had that credibility. It was a perfect transition to now I'm not just producing their apparel, I'm producing a merch collection. And now more than ever, like she said, the sizes, that's been a huge thing. Your bottle, you don't have to worry about that. A towel, a journal, those are items that, you know, I wish I was selling more T-shirts, but I'm not. So what other products can you engage in, give your customers ideas on, even though they're virtual, even though they're not coming to camp this year, how can you still connect with them? It's more than budget. It's about that brand awareness. You know, a lot of people get wrapped up in only price, which obviously price drives a lot, but it's like, why are you doing this? Do you want them to come back next year when they open up, hopefully? and you got to keep in front of them, not just, email spam.
So Artem says you should see our embossed shirt with one color print. And that really begs to the discussion where you don't have to have a 10 color something to be creative. In fact, I would almost argue it's harder to be creative, make it simple. How can you do it with one color? How can you be creative and be as simple as you can? Of course, in retail, it's 10 colors is one color. They're going to sell it for the same price. It just costs you more to build it, right?
Yeah, the tonal trend, whether it's embroidery or screen print, that's one of our favorite. It's super subtle. We use tonal light and tonal dark, and you can use that on different shirt colors, and it's super soft print, and it has, makes people kind of look at it, and it's not loud and in your face. I love tonal prints.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, we're a fan of 1 to 3 colors with texture, maybe no base. We work with awesome printers so they can achieve the full color prints. But yeah, we like minimal colors for sure.
Yeah. Before we get to our last thing, I wanted to show everybody the most badass business card in the business. So I met Jeremy at the Promo Kitchen Mixer, which is Promo Kitchen's a thought leadership group that I belong to in the promo industry. I'm a promo kitchen chef, and so we have a mixer at the House of Blues on the Monday night of PPAI Expo in Vegas, and he gave me his business card, and this just looks like a normal business card, right? Except, can you see it's cut out, right? But here's the other thing is, listen to this. Can you hear that? That's his business card. It's metal. Right, so not only is it metal, but it's varnished. I don't know if you can see. Can you see the reflection?
Tone on tone, gloss on matte.
Awesome. On so many levels, this is just badass.
Thanks.
So, when I don't even know how. I don't even want to think about how much that costs to produce. But it's like one of these things that's memorable. So if you're going to position yourself as the master of creativity, are you handing somebody that you got something that you bought from Vistaprint? What are you doing? So I just want to throw that out there because it's just so great.
Well, and again, I'm a design firm first. We come on the design approach first and foremost, and how can I build credibility, with prospects if I don't set that best foot forward? And so, at ISS at PPAI, I love it because everyone is stoked on that card. It's memorable. Yeah, I paid a little more for those, but again, I just need one order to pay for all of those. And so I want to show our creativity. I want to bring out the things I can do for my customers by doing that for my own brand, even though it's hard to do your own stuff sometimes.
Yeah, there's a designer, his moniker is Hydro74. I don't know if you're familiar.
Oh, yeah.
But he does challenge coins. That's his business card.
Yeah.
And it's super heavy. And of course, everything he does is all skulls and flames and stuff. And it's just, you should look him up. If you've never heard of that guy, you should just Google Hydro74 and watch a real true badass at work. So he does a lot of videos. How do I think? And stuff. I don't know. It's just I always like looking at what he does. So
he's a beast. Yeah, I've been following him since probably 2009, and he was super popular back then. When that artwork was more popular than it is today. But yeah, he's pretty crazy.
Yeah,
he has a warped mind, but in a good creative way.
And if you like Star Wars, he's the king of Star Wars stuff too.
Oh yeah.
So our last topic is this one, which is where do you go for inspiration? And what I was thinking here is, of course, it's the mall and it's the thing, it's Pinterest. We kind of talked about that. But for me, where I go for inspiration is places that are quiet, right? I like to kind of float in my pool or just be by myself or read a book or whatever. And then what happens out of that comes just a flurry of new ideas and information and stuff. So I was just curious about, for you, like a lot of people get their bst ideas driving their car, right? Or taking a shower, right? So where's your best idea come from, do you think?
Well, ideally, it's sitting on a bench in Italy. That I last year we went on vacation, and this is my notebook, and just I probably took 15 pages. Yeah, I don't know. There's some about it. One, it was my vacation, so I was a little less stressed. But I would just sit on a bench, have a cappuccino, and just people watch and watch the birds. And that's a great place because people from all over the world. And so I got so much inspiration just on not only from the fashion side, but just the human side of how people are interacting. That is my favorite place for ideas. But for me, I think just people watching. If I can still down my mind, that's the hardest part. I get plenty of ideas. Even Saturday mornings out on the back porch. I just need time away from the computer to just kind of let my mind go. And one of the tips I have on building something for customers is like get a bunch of ideas out there. That's the best thing when you're building like brands and logos is give the client 15 different options, because not only is that going to show your diversity and what you think of their brand, it's going to help narrow down. They're going to know what they don't like and what they do like. So I like to get just tons of ideas, not taking things personally. One of my things I say to everyone that I work with, I'm going to be politely opinionated. If I don't think your decision's right, I'm going to let you know that, because if you just want to guide yourself, go to Custom Ink and get your shirts printed. But if you want, real humans that people is creating something to problem solve, like I wouldn't be who I differentiate myself if I'm not opinionated on what I'm seeing in the market. It's just not my opinion. It's what I see from my clients in retail and, what I see from all of my peers here in the industry. So, those are things. And fashion magazines are another, just again, to get away from the computer. And I love going through fashion magazines to pull out, because they're setting the trends and
So,
creative ideas.
You go to Magic?
I did a few years ago. It's crazy. It's overwhelming a bit.
I used to go, both, because there's 2 a year. I used to go to both of them, and before cell phone cameras, and I would fill a sketchbook up, and I would come back and I would instruct my art team, and we would have months of design work that came out of that, just because I'm taking that one idea and I'm spinning it into dozens of different ideas that we're going to do just based on me looking at something. And, and I've always done that, right? And a long time ago, I'm like 1,000 years old, but one of the things I used to do was to rip stuff out of magazines and put it in like a photo album. And I used to have there were like 4, 5, 6 inches of just nothing but ripped stuff out of magazines. And I would just go through the stuff. And I liked the way the type wrapped around something, wrapped around something. And so when you're stuck in an idea, you just don't know what to do, just flipping through that stuff, you go, oh yeah, I can take this type and it can go like this instead of just flat. And then that sparks a whole different direction for what you're doing. And then of course, I don't know about you, I'm a huge proponent of thumbnails. And I like Post-it notes more than anything you can do. Right. And just to scribble a Post-it note. And if you don't like it, throw it away. If you do like it, guess what? You can stick it to the side of your monitor, and now you have something you can build right there next to you. And it's easier to knock some stuff out.
I have sloppy handwriting, so I tend to scribble things and I can't read it. So every week, like I try to transcribe my notes in my notebook to Evernote or Google Docs, just to make sure I don't forget it if I go back and can't read my own handwriting.
Right.
It's the one thing I'm good at.
So we got about 2 minutes left. So
Yeah.
I'd love to give you just your parting shot. Inspire everybody watching to be more creative. What should they do right now to do something they've never done before to be creative?
Put away, your ideas, especially for those who don't think they're creative. You can be creative if you try. You didn't learn how to ride a bike. You didn't learn how to use software. You didn't know how to screen print. You have to put time into it. And it's hard because there's no immediate ROI. Like, it's hard to measure, am I wasting my time? You're not wasting your time. By you creating a better product for your customer, it's only going to solidify you again as amongst all the other people there in your space. And just find creativity everywhere. Again, your customers, so don't rely on other people to do all the work for you. You can use these trend boards, that I put out as a foundation, as an inspiration, but take what you think is going to work for your customers and spend that time. It's going to go a long way. It'll set you and your customer up for success, and again, be not just supply.
Perfect. And my thing is going to be, don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I think a lot of people don't feel they're creative because they're worried about the judgment of other people. And that's the reason why they never start drawing or painting or baking or whatever, right? They're just writing us music. Like, they're so worried about what other people say and think that they don't ever start, because they don't want to make mistakes. And I think that's absolutely the wrong way to be.
Oh, man.
And I dive off the cliff, and man, I don't know where I'm going, but we're sure going to go fast at it. So, anyway, so thank you so much for your time today, Jeremy.
Thanks, fantastic. Marshall. I've always looked up to you. I've been following you for a few years. You're the OG in my eyes. And, you say you're not hip like the kids, but you're on LinkedIn, you're on Twitter, you're on Instagram. Like, people need to take note of what you're doing to build not only your personal brand, but your company as well. I think there's a lot of things that you people out there can learn, not just his content, but how he's doing it, how he's delivering that content. So you're young at heart on that end. You know the marketing game. So kudos on that.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm willing to make those mistakes. Yep. Like this show. I don't know what I'm doing. Let's go. It's just let's just start something and see what happens. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, I'll do something else. I'm not worried about it. So, but anyway, thank you so much for your time, and thanks everyone for watching. We appreciate you. Feel free to connect with me. And if you want to get a hold of Jeremy, I wanted to share his email. I got it right here somewhere. So if you want that trend and trim guide, email Jeremy. I'm sure he'll hook you up.
For sure.
And if you haven't, I'm going to have a little shout out here. If you haven't registered for the free ticket to Shirt Lab Summit, please do so. It's at shirtlabsummit.com. We've got over 700 something people who've registered so far. But, I think there's more people in this industry than 700. So, there's plenty of room. You can do it. It's June 1st through the 3rd. And it's recorded interviews, and you can binge watch them just like Tiger King. So it's, it's going to be a good thing. So
that's great.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Jeremy?
No, I don't. I did, but I forgot it. So I think my mind's been racing. But Mom,
this is your mom.
I love you, Mom. Thanks for watching. You figured out Facebook Live.
All right. Well, hey, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Jeremy. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Marshall.
Hang up, Jeremy.
Okay.
Hey, see ya.
Bye.